All right, so today we're diving into something a little different.
Oh,
Yeah, a film synopsis. Buckle up, because this one's wild.
all right. I'm intrigued. What's it called?
It's based on a YouTube video transcript, actually. He fed his daughter only vegetables for 16 years. So that, catchy, right?
Oh, wow. Clickbait title for sure.
Totally, from a channel called Fox Recaps. Seems like their thing.
Okay, and what kind of film are we talking here? What's the vibe?
Think isolation, coming of age, and a dash of, well, let's just say the line between human and wild gets kind of blurry.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention.
So the story follows this young girl, Anna. She's been raised in total isolation, like attic-level isolation.
Wow. By whom?
Her guardian, a guy named Gabe, and this is where it gets interesting. Gabe feeds her only vegetables.
Only vegetables.
Yep, and tells her all these terrifying stories about these wildlings lurking outside.
Oh, okay, so kind of like building this whole mythology to keep her scared and inside.
Exactly. He electrifies the doorknobs, limits her view of the outside world to a single window.
Seriously.
Dead serious. And even tells her he's her father. He basically manufactures her entire reality.
That's messed up. And effective, I bet.
Chillingly so. Anna believes every word, terrified of these wildlings. Her only company's a hamster.
Ah, the classic lonely childhood pet. I'm sensing some symbolism here.
You're right on the money, because when the hamster kicks the bucket, Gabe uses it as a chance to explain death to Anna, tells her it's in a better place now.
Oof, that's heavy. Especially considering what happens later in the film.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how much of that was genuine and how much was manipulation.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. But things start shifting as Anna grows older. She's having these crazy nightmares. Her hearing becomes super sharp. And get this, her nails start turning claw-like.
Well, hold on. Claw-like. What's going on with that?
That's the million-dollar question. Meanwhile, Gabe keeps dosing her with medication. Says it's for her illness, but, spoiler alert.
Let me guess. Not really for her illness.
Nice. Turns out he's been stunting her growth, keeping her underdeveloped.
Wow, this Gabe guy is something else. Another layer of control, huh? Especially as she hits puberty.
Exactly. He's trying to keep her dependent both physically and mentally.
So how does she break free from all this?
Well, things take a drastic turn when Gabe commits suicide.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's only then that Anna discovers the truth about her imprisonment and finally gets to see the outside world.
So what happens? Who finds her?
She's rescued by the sheriff, Ellen. Ellen and her brother, Rye, they take Anna in. Talk about a culture shock, right?
Totally. Imagine going from that isolated attic to, like, a whole new world, people, information, everything you thought you knew was a lie.
It's a lot for anyone to handle, especially with puberty hitting her full force. But wait, there's more. Remember how Gabe claimed to be her dad?
Yeah.
Turns out he wasn't. A DNA test reveals that. Shocker. Not her biological father.
Talk about another layer of messed up. So now she's dealing with identity issues on top of everything else.
Yep. Makes you wonder what her real family was like, where she really comes from. And this is where things get really interesting.
Lay it on me.
Those wildling visions she's been having, they intensify. And then there's this mysterious Wolfman character who seems to recognize something in her. Something different.
Ooh, I'm getting chills. Okay, so we've got wildling visions, a mysterious wolf man, a dead guardian who lied about everything. What's the connection here?
Well, that's where the deep dive really begins. The Wolfman becomes kind of like a guide, helping Anna understand her true nature. And through him, she learns the truth about Gabe.
What truth?
Turns out he was part of this brutal purge of wildlings. And get this, he killed Anna's mother.
Oh my God. That's dark.
Yeah, it's a serious twist. We go from a creepy attic to a whole hidden world of wildlings and a history of violence against them.
So how does Anna handle all this? How does knowing all this change her?
That's the thing. It throws her entire world into chaos. Again, everything she thought she knew about herself, her family, even humanity, it's shattered.
I can't even imagine. And I bet those wildling traits start to show even more now, right?
Absolutely. Her senses are heightened. She's got physical transformations happening. She's even more aggressive. It's like she's finally coming into her own, but it also sets the stage for some major conflict.
Uh-oh. This is where things get messy, huh?
You could say that. Things are about to get really intense. It's wild to think about how Gabe controlled Anna, you know? Like, it wasn't just locking her up. He went deeper.
Oh, yeah. Way deeper. It's like he was controlling her from the inside out.
Right. That whole thing with the vegetables, I mean, come on.
Yeah, that really stands out. Like, on the surface, it's all healthy lifestyle. But You got to wonder if it was more sinister.
Totally. It,
Yeah,
it kept her weak, dependent, maybe even messed with her, her wildling side.
possibly. Yeah, like
And,
suppressing those natural instincts, making it harder for her to transform.
and then the medications, too. Supposedly for her
Yeah.
illness, but
Another way to control her,
yeah.
to keep her small, childlike.
Exactly. It all ties together. Gabe was obsessed with keeping Anna from reaching her full potential, both as a human and as a wildling.
It makes her escape even more powerful. She wasn't just breaking free physically, she was breaking free from this whole constructed reality.
Absolutely. And then those transformation scenes, they're so intense. The claws, the teeth, those heightened senses.
It's primal, It
Yeah.
speaks to something deep within her, this connection to the wild that Gabe tried to bury.
It makes you think about all those categories we try to put people in. Human versus wild, civilized versus
Right,
savage.
those neat little boxes we like to create. But this story throws all that out the window.
Anna's both, right? Beautiful and fierce. Makes you question your own perceptions, maybe even your prejudices.
Exactly. And speaking of prejudice, those hunters, man, they're a whole other level of messed up.
They represent that fear of the unknown, right?
Right.
Anything different is automatically a threat.
Totally. Zero empathy. They just see monster, not a girl, not a person with feelings, and a whole history of pain.
And a child on the way, don't forget.
Yeah, that adds a whole other layer. But it's interesting, the film doesn't shy away from showing violence on both sides.
Right, we see the hunter's brutality, but we also see Anna fight back, aggressive.
It makes you think about that question. Is violence inherent? Part of human nature? Wild nature? Both.
Tough question. I feel like the film doesn't give you easy answers. It's more about making you confront the complexity of it all.
Yeah. The fear, the trauma, the survival instincts. It can push anyone to the edge.
And then you have Rye. He's like a beacon of hope in all this darkness.
He's amazing. Sees past the wildling exterior, recognizes her humanity, trusts her when no one else does.
And that loyalty is huge EE, especially when everyone else is telling him she's a monster.
It shows the power of empathy, right? Choosing compassion over fear. And it lets Anna see herself as more than just a monster.
It's like he becomes a bridge for her between the human world she was denied and the wildling world she's discovering.
He helps her navigate both, but ultimately he knows he has to let her go.
That scene, man, it breaks your heart, but it's also so selfless.
He loves her enough to let her find her own path, even if it means losing her.
Heavy stuff. Makes you think about what it truly means to care for someone.
Exactly. Is it holding on tight or letting go when it's for their own good?
And it all circles back to that question of what it means to be human. Are we defined by our biology, our upbringing, our choices?
Big questions. The film doesn't give you easy answers, but it forces you to think, to question your own assumptions about what's normal or acceptable.
It's about challenging those boundaries, those neat categories we try to create.
Exactly. And even though the film is about this conflict between humans and wildlings, it also leaves you with this sense of wonder.
That ending, with her hearing another wildling's call, it's like there's a whole hidden world out there.
It reminds us that there's always more to discover, more to learn. And sometimes the most amazing discoveries are found in the most unexpected places.
Makes you wonder, right? What else is hidden just beyond what we can see or hear, and how we react to those things,
Oh,
the
yeah.
things we don't quite understand.
That's the power of a story like this. It's not just a movie. It holds up a mirror to our own fears and biases.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Anna's whole life, she's judged for something she can't control, something she was literally born with.
It happens all the time, right? We
Oh.
draw lines, make judgments based on what we think is different.
And the film doesn't shy away from that. Even visually, it's playing with those contrasts. Think about Anna's attic. Cramped, dark, almost suffocating.
Right? And then you've got the forest. Open, wild, bathed in sunlight.
It's deliberate, that visual language. Confinement versus freedom, like being held back versus breaking free.
The darkness represents her isolation, her ignorance, and then she steps into the light, literally, and it's like this awakening.
And those northern lights, they're not just there for the scenery. They seem to have a deeper meaning for Anna, like a pull almost.
Absolutely. It's a homecoming for her, right? Back to where she was born, where her wildling heritage truly began.
It's like the sacred space, a place of origin and destination. Like, despite everything, she's finally found where she belongs.
But even with that sense of belonging, there's still that lingering tension. The hunters are still out there.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen to her and the baby. There's this underlying sense of danger, Like the fight isn't over.
Right. Freedom's rarely easy. Survival, especially for someone like Anna, it's an ongoing battle. But she's strong, she's protective, and she's definitely not alone anymore.
And you can't forget about motherhood. It adds another dimension to her story.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Does it change her, you think? Soften her? Or does it make her even more fierce?
I don't know. The film leaves it open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Is it a humanizing force or is it this primal instinct kicking in?
And it circles back to that nature versus nurture question, doesn't it?
Right. We've talked about Gabe's influence, the trauma, but there's also this inherent wildness in Anna. So, how much is predetermined and how much is shaped by our experiences?
Another big question. The film shows both sides. Gabe's manipulation, but also this untamed part of Anna that he could never truly control.
It's like those two forces are woven together, shaping who she is.
Makes her story even more tragic, right? A product of both her genes and her environment.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? About the complexity of human behavior, the lasting effects of trauma, all those different parts of ourselves that we try to understand.
It's a good reminder to be careful about judging, labeling people. We never really know the whole story.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, huh?
We have isolation, transformation, prejudice, that whole blurred line between humanity and the wild.
We've questioned our own assumptions, explored some pretty heavy moral dilemmas.
And maybe even discovered a little wildness within ourselves.
It's been a wild ride for sure, but hopefully it's given you something to think about, something to chew on.
Remember, it's not just about the facts, it's about how we apply them to our own lives, how we use them to understand the world, and hopefully make it a better place.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring.